Right, moving swiftly on to the next trend is going to be building a global community. So, how often do you hear phrases like, she's so French, or he's from up north? Where you're from used to define who we are as people, and if not define it, be a big part of it. But I think now that we are becoming more transient, that question of where do you come from becomes much more difficult to answer. So how are brands adapting to this new transient way of living? So I'm sure you're all familiar with Soho House. They have 15 clubs around the world now, and the idea is that they're trying to bring this home away from home. So they're keeping their house style, but actually bringing in these local influences. And last year they launched Soho Works, so to create this obviously hub of working for this transient way of living. But not everybody travels. Some people choose to settle in different places. And I think there are brands that are adapting or innovating their services to actually provide for these new migrant communities. So this is an example from Lebra. They're the SIM card provider, and they've created a new service called Lebra Play. And Lebra Play is an on-demand TV or movies, and it's languages from Romanian to Hindi. And again, just trying to evolve what they are as a brand for this new migrant community. So how can brands help you to feel included? Obviously Airbnb, the obvious one here, their strapline is belong anywhere, and the symbol, their mark, the Balo, is a very strong part of that. So it was designed to be to cross cultures, and I think it was also, when they actually designed the Balo, they designed it so people could actually interact with it and create things from it themselves, which is actually really nice. When you think about most of the brands you work with, you probably have really strict guidelines about not being able to do anything with them. And then another great example of this is Uber. So again, if you downloaded the Uber app in a different country, you'd actually be served with a different type of icon. And that icon will pull in influences from different cities, and that could be colour and different patterns, and that will come from different fabrics or ceramics. I really love that idea. This one's actually China. But it's not just about brands adapting to different cities. Global brands are now empowering communities as well. So this is a great example called Our Vodka. It's by Pernod Ricard, and it's a global vodka but with local production. And what they've done is they've enlisted local entrepreneurs to actually produce the vodka locally. And if you go on their website, they've got a great film about how this is all about community. I think what's also really nice about this is that there's no Pernod Ricard branding on it. There's only just a small bit about it on the website. And because we're global, obviously our friends and our families live all over the world. So there are really nice examples of brands actually working out ways to bring us closer together. So this is a great one from Airbnb again and PayPal, where you can put in your location and the location of your loved one or friends, and it will find the exact middle point, and then obviously serve you with an Airbnb recommendation, and you pay by PayPal. And I think with all this, because we are connected all of the time, that we're able to harness this global data. So I'm sure, I don't know whether you all know, but recently Under Armour have just spent a very large amount of money just acquiring a lot of wearable tech. And this now means that they are the owner of the largest global health and fitness community. So that obviously has massive implications for the product that the brand is actually, products the brands are producing. But even further than that, it's not just about collecting now more local data, but being able to harness all that data on a global scale will have massive impacts for the brand, but also for sport itself. And the final case study is from Absolut Vodka. So they've created Absolut Labs, and this is their opportunity to be a bit more experimental. And part of this, they've created the Nightlife 100, and that is who they deem to be 100 the most globally influential people in nightlife. And they will come together and they will collaborate with the Absolut community and Absolut fans to come up with ideas about what the future of nightlife might be. So the idea of collaborating with your customers and building this brand for this global citizen is what our next speakers are going to talk to you about. So it's Alina Zois, Director of CRM and Loyalty at Marriott Hotels, and Steph de Jong, founder of Like Friends. They're going to talk to you about the Marriott's youth brand, the Moxie.
First question to the audience, what I like to do is I like to understand if anyone has ever heard of Moxie before, by the raise of hands. Can you please? Come on. Good.
Yeah, yeah. And how many of you have heard about the brand prior to reading on it on Creative Brief?
All right. Or,
Two lesser hands, okay.
Or talking to
All right.
any one of us, obviously. So maybe a little bit about us. So Alina, maybe you can talk a bit.
Yeah, so before we dive into Moxie and the project that we worked on with Steph and his company, Like Friends, we'll just go ahead and introduce ourselves. So my name is Alina, and as Kara said, I'm the director for CRM and Loyalty for Marriott International. I look over the Marriott Rewards loyalty program in Europe, and in my role, I really focus on how can we grow our community of members, and also how can we make sure that that community is engaged and active with the brand as well as with the portfolio of brands that we have.
Yeah, so and I'm Steph de Jong. I'm from Amsterdam, so I have a little bit weird construction of sentences every now and again, so please bear with me with that. I'm the founder of Like Friends. We're a creative agency. Fueled by people is like how we like to phrase it. We work for brands like Under Armour, so in that sense, the connectivity and all the community sense, we see that coming and going. We were talking about Endomundo, I think, the one that they bought, and also all the Map My Fitness things. One of our clients, other clients are PepsiCo and stuff like Lay's, Pepsi, etc. We do a lot of things on digital and then grow them into brand. And today we're going to talk about community, so we do a lot of things around those. Yeah. So about this thing, So the trend today, how can a brand help people feel more connected? I think this is quite interesting when you look at how we got briefed at the beginning.
Yeah. So within, I guess, Marriott International as well as the Marriott Rewards program, right? Connectedness is really key for us because community sort of sits in the heart of it. So when we went to Like Friends, the key sort of question for us for this brief was, how can we build really an engaging and lasting brand, as well as developing really long and lasting relationships with our guests and travelers?
And I think looking at these connectedness, so the first question that we always pose to our client is, all right, why then should we care about this connectivity, and why is this connectedness so important to us? And then we look at individual and more universal human insights, and what you see is that basically, connectedness is what we see across the board, especially in this, we're going to dive into that later, millennial target audience. People look at their peers, they look at their like-minded people across the board. And you see that they're looking at product, they look at brand, they look at what other people use, they look at the like-minded guys and girls.
Yeah, and to that, from the brand side, so Marriott has 19 brands. So we range from, high luxury tier brands such as Ritz-Carlton and JW Marriott to our signature brands such as Marriott and Courtyard, all the way down to lifestyle brands such as AC Hotels and Moxie, this brand that we're speaking about today. And within that, there's a range of customers that we're really satisfying, from baby boomers to Gen X, Gen Y, to millennials, which is really the next gen traveler for us. And that's who we are, let's say, preparing for. And with that in mind, community is really important. That's how they grew up. So finding a way to connect them is really important.
Yeah, and what we see from more on agency side, across all the brands we work for a lot of millennial brands, what you see is that they take more cues from their peers in terms of what to buy, where to stay, what to do when they stay, when they are, where they like to be, with their like-minded peers. So they're all about taking these cues, not looking at advertising. It's not about belief, it's about credibility, about taking what your like-minded people and peers are doing at that stage.
Yeah. So why the trend now, I guess, and why are we focusing on this? So like I mentioned before, really the generation that we're really focusing on within the travel and hotel sector is the next gen traveler, because in a few years from now, they'll be the primary source for our revenue. So we're trying to prepare for them. And like I mentioned before, this next gen traveler, the millennials, really grew up with social channels. They grew up by being connected with the world and with their peers. So as a brand, it's really our responsibility to sort of prepare for that and meet their expectations when they start traveling, to have that connectedness and a platform where they can connect with the brand and the loyalty program as well.
It's a scary place to be at as well at the same time, being all this connected to people. They influence your brand, so you leave things open, you leave things to them so that can influence you in both positive and negative ways. So you need to be aware of that. And I think what helps us in this trend right now is that when I started with social, there was like 27 or something, so basically everything was social media. You could call basically YouTube and ask them to place your video on the homepage. It was like crazy market, but right now it's all more, I'm not trying to use the word siloed, but you can be a little bit more steering what you get from people, like the screen over there where I'm not sure if the Wi-Fi is working, where you see Instagram images. We just show Instagram images, so we can basically steer what the identity will be while keeping it open at the same time. You've seen us, so let's skip that slide. There are many ways, obviously, to drive this connectedness. So there are ways to open up your brand. We're going to look into the ways we did that with the Moxie before. So like things that, how can you influence your brand using your crew? How can you influence your brand using other peers, like-minded things? Can you even open up the product itself, which is something which is really excited we've done in the hotel.
Absolutely. I think it's valuable for us to show our customers and our members that we value their contributions and that we show them and we share those contributions that they make with us. And also, to Steph's point, try to expand our services to accommodate for that.
So, does advertising make the world a better place? I'm not sure, but let's try to make it more playful. And that's also a thing that we did with Moxie. Moxie in itself, the word already means kind of edgy, kind of playfulness, and in that sense we try to open up the brand. Looking at the Moxie Hotel, we've basically what we've done, we went through a big list of competitors. We've been to every hotel almost. I haven't been to every hotel. We've seen a lot, and what you see, it's almost like an industry standard, is that there's no people in any website that you go at of a hotel. There's never a person to be seen. It's only empty spaces of rooms. It doesn't live basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So what we looked at internally as well is how can we develop this brand in a way that it appeals to this customer base. And we looked at hostels, which is as well a primary location where people connect with each other. And they're able to exchange knowledge about the experience that they had in the city, give each other tips. It's a very casual sort of environment, whereas a hotel environment normally is a little bit more formal. And in addition to that, we looked at other spaces as well where people really just connect, let's say the Starbucks area. So we tried to go a little bit outside of our comfort zone to develop this space inside the Moxie brand, which is a little bit different than the norm of what we've been doing the past few years, and really bring that connectedness into the space.
I think the word hostel is quite interesting in this context as well, looking at it from a hotel point of view. We basically go from an individual space to a communal space. We go to places where we can have an experience. People can collect stories, which means basically that millennials are constantly looking out for places where they can hang out, have fun, meet like-minded people, connect with their peers, and basically
collect stories.
Collect
right?
stories. I think that's, collect stories. For that.
So the Moxie brand, in the end, is basically what we came up with, and what we've launched is a hotel really with more of a hostel soul, one that constantly is changing based on the customers that are coming in and the different experiences that they have and they share with each other. However, the key thing here is that the mentality doesn't change, but the different consumers just bring in a different color and diversity into what we're offering.
So before I'm going to show you how it actually works and how we bring it to life, I'm going to give you a little bit of the flavor of the brand, how we basically for ourselves defined it in a short clip, short film that basically shows you a little bit of the feel.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening at the Moxie. Wow, that was awesome. So at the Moxie, basically, back to the brief. So how can we establish this lasting brand while building a long-term relationship with this community? How can we do that? So we created the hashtag at the Moxie, which is basically the overarching thing that people can use to tap into the whole brand experience. The idea that we tie to it is basically using the hashtag allows you to basically sign the guest book. Sign it with a visual testimonial of yourself being either at the Moxie or feeling yourself part of the group that is at the Moxie. What we've done, and this is a screenshot of the global site basically, is that any image that will be produced by ourselves or our obviously influencers, etc., but community will be posted on our global site. And by that, we create an ongoing, ever expanding brand identity in that sense. But then we took it a bit further. We took it towards the actual product. We looked, okay, the Moxie Hotel is a completely new brand. We only have one hotel to be opened up in Milan, the first one. Let's completely rethink about this whole thing. Let's make the whole thing a communal place. Let's add a screen in, like you see over there, but then like really big. And whenever anyone adds an image to the Moxie and is part of the community, it pops up the screen, which in itself is interesting. If you have one location, but right now we have 5, 6.
Right? 5.
And this year, and we're planning to open up a lot of those because we're married. And imagine you have across the globe all these screens and all these people creating content. You're basically designing. Sorry, I wanted to make one more point. You get lots of content that basically creates an ongoing, everlasting identity, which I think is really exciting because it will change. It will change according to the guests. It will change according to whatever you put in there. And we put in there a lot of stuff, like Blank Canvas, which is a completely focused experience around influencers who are creating a piece of art that stays in a hotel and then can travel through a new hotel. And then we do, whenever we open the Berlin Moxie, we do another a Blank Canvas, and by that creating for these people, these millennials, places where they can basically collect those stories.
Awesome. And just to say how Marriott Rewards sort of leveraged this platform as well, but essentially we tried to integrate ourselves into this ecosystem and all the content that's been developed and try to entice prospect guests to join the program. So what we did is we handed out with every new member a coaster, and people were able to place their beverage drinks on that coaster, and then with a condensation they could actually draw art. So going back to that Blank Canvas project too, and then they could post that art onto at the Moxie with the hashtag, on the Instagram with that hashtag, and then we'd collect all that content and share it across the different boards, whether that was on property as well as above property digitally on the site.
Like I said, product innovation. What we've done as well is we created Moxie Cam, iPads with a casing around it, put it in the hotel, guests can pick it up, and get all these visual cues that are in the hotel to produce more content, to create a bigger story, like these. So every single hotel has its own Moxie Cam. We get in Berlin, we get crazy Berlin shots. In Milan, we get, I don't know, bike polo or something. I'm not sure what they're doing there, but it's interesting. And pasta, a lot of pasta. The thing is, like I said, it's open. So we need to keep the story on brand. We need to give people guidance to what is interesting as well on how we like to see the brand evolving. There's many ways to do so. One of these are obviously the images and the community management we have on the back end of this whole, basically it's an ecosystem.
And just to say, just like Ayfangir said, right, connectedness and community is so important, and we feel that this just brought us just a level closer to that customer than we had before.
Exactly. It is never easy. We have so many people like, oh my God, someone is making a photo. We don't want to see that photo. There's this whole system behind this thing that blocks out everything you don't want to see.
Sure.
Like me undressing.
You know, maybe we can call it the digital buddy, just so we can take on that.
But it's scalable, so it pops and it evolves, which is interesting. So, where's Moxie now?
Yeah, really quickly, because I know we're running out of time. But Moxie is a brand new brand. Essentially, it launched 2 years ago. But it is our newest brand. It's the first of its kind, actually, because it was developed in Europe for millennials, and now it's being imported back to the US, which Marriott hasn't done before. So we're really excited about the brand. And we have currently 5 hotels, the majority in Europe, although we do have 2 in the States, and there are a lot more coming down the pipeline. So really excited about that.
Let's make those photos.
Yeah.
And claim our role in making everyone feel connected. And also use the hashtag, because basically we have the same system running right now on that side. It is refreshing once we have Wi-Fi. I think it's up and down every once in a while. And that's it.